In my noble and somewhat regrettable quest to play and review every MMO in existence, I never anticipated that a fan-made creation would grace my radar, yet here we are, about to take a closer look at what I'd consider a gem in the rough. Now, before we go any further, I should clarify, I'm not a Minecraft player. Sure, I own it, I've owned it since release, and I've acquired multiple copies thanks to my kids who absolutely need it on every single device under the sun, only to play it for about 10 seconds. But anyway, my point is, I'm no expert in the nether regions of Minecraft. Wait, that kind of sounds dodgy. But why is this relevant? Well, because I'm approaching this MMO experience, like any other, as a standalone game, judging it against traditional MMORPGs. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by what we find in this zero-mod masterpiece. But enough preamble. Let's dive into the world of Oh, no, it's Wynncraft. As with all MMO adventures, the first thing we do is pick a character. We've got 5 classes to choose from initially, with another 5 locked behind what I assume is some kind of paywall. Each class has 3 archetypes, letting you specialize into a more defined playstyle. Standard stuff, really. There's also a selection of additional rule sets for those who enjoy a bit of extra suffering. You've got Hardcore, where you drop most of your items on death. Iron Man, which restricts trading and banking, because who needs conveniences, right? Then there's Ultimate Iron Man, which sounds ominous, but no one knows what it actually does. There's also Hunted, where you're permanently flagged for PvP, which sounds like a fun throwback to being a red player in Black Desert Online. And lastly, we have Craftsman, where you can only use crafted items, so good luck with that. As for me, I normally gravitate towards melee classes, but since this is Minecraft, I thought I would see how they handle being a mage. Sadly, no option to customize your appearance, but that's fine. Once we've selected our class, hovering over our character shows our level, quest completed, XP, and the spells we'll eventually unlock. We're treated to a short cutscene, and then we're thrown straight into the game. The UI is clear enough. Health on the left, mana on the right, and character level front and center. Quest and gear buttons sit neatly at the bottom right. Apparently, we were traveling by caravan, but it seems we've hit a bit of a snag. Our first named NPC, Tazim, makes an appearance. The quest tracker, surprisingly, works quite well. Not only do you get a massive glowing waypoint, but you've also got coordinates for when you want to pretend you know where you're going. I imagine this will be useful later on. After a short walk, we reach the gate and are let into the province of Wynn. We're immediately called over by a soldier who hands us our first quest, a quick lesson in exploring caves. Naturally, I descend the ladder with all the grace and finesse you'd expect, and after hopping across a few gaps, I reach a chest at the end of the cave. We're rewarded with an unidentified helmet and some emeralds. He also tells us how to identify loot, a feature more commonly found in ARPGs. You've probably seen this before. You don't know what loot you've got until you take it to an identifier. Usually there's a bit of RNG in the stats, which is great if you love gambling your time away. My first bit of gear, a Tosach, whatever it is, it gives me +2 health and 1% XP bonus. It also seems like the item identifier is actually Watto from The Phantom Menace. Excellent start. The bridge ahead is destroyed, but more importantly, no one seems to remember anything before arriving in Wynn. Amnesia cliché? Tick. Luckily, we managed to fell a tree and create a makeshift bridge. The guard, naturally, stays behind, sending us ahead to deal with some rogue, corrupted mobs. He also hands me a wand, assuming my class. A corrupted enemy materializes out of thin air, and I finally get to test out my new wand. Combat at this point feels very much like Minecraft, nothing particularly special yet. I'm looking forward to unlocking spells to see if things get more interesting. We kneel beside another guard. This one clearly put in more effort than the lazy sod we just left behind, and we're promptly ambushed by Corrupted. Our companion, Aladar, starts barking out orders, prioritizing targets like a proper leader. The action continues with a few pesky undead miners before we encounter yet another lazy guard. Now, this chap wants me to move a boulder. What exactly is the boulder here? The block or the entire bloody wall? Either way, we finally unlock our first spell. Thank the gods. It's a proper ability tree, and our first spell is Meteor. Fantastic. There's even a click combo as well. Right, left, left. So I guess I'm playing Invoker from Dota 2 now. Exalt, exalt, Wex. I'd love to say I nailed that combo at the first try, but no. I spent more time than I'd care to admit failing at this basic task, only to realise you need to be holding your wand to cast spells. Master Mage right here. The next section throws us into a chase, where we're tasked with killing a few mobs at each blockade, before facing off against a mini-boss. Casting Meteor is a lot of fun, though the time it takes to land is painfully slow. I'm sure there'll be some upgrades down the line that can speed this up. After defeating the mini-boss, the previously missing guard pops out of nowhere, battered and bruised, to thank us. Good job, mate. Our journey continues through some scenic terrain, and we finally arrive at the city of Ragni, where the town guards treat us to some high-quality voice acting. The King of Ragni looks suspiciously like our item appraiser from earlier. He gives us a bit of advice. Use the browser map if we get lost. There doesn't seem to be an in-game map or even a mini-map, which is slightly concerning. I wonder just how big the map is. Oh my god, this game is absolutely massive. At this point, we've got a meta quest being tracked. Kill a few mobs, complete 2 quests, and find 3 discoveries. Fair enough. As we enter the heart of Ragni, I'm pleasantly surprised by how many actual players there are. I've no idea how populated the rest of the game is, but seeing this many people in the starter city is a good sign. We have a little wander around and find all the usual MMORPG NPCs, blacksmith, merchants, cooks, training dummies. Speaking of which, those training dummies are particularly cursed. They are absolutely cursed. Help me. Oh, and the city even has its own peeping Tom. Lovely. On our way to our first proper quest, we are suddenly attacked by what I can only describe as a zombie chicken made of flubber. Naturally, after dispatching this abomination, we enter the cave for the task at hand. The objective is simple enough. Find an energy mushroom. However, it turns out these tiny mushrooms on the ground aren't quite what we're after. After looting a chest full of unidentified items, we finally find our energy mushroom. But the real challenge begins as we try to fight our way out. I'm not sure I'm particularly fond of this camera angle, Thurk. Returning to Ragni, now that I'm not being swarmed by the undead, I can finally take a look at our ability points. Standard stuff: strength, agility, dexterity, intelligence, and defense. Each stat has some passive effects tied to it, which adds a bit more depth to the game. For example, intelligence increases mana, boosts water damage, and reduces spell cost. I think I'll go ahead and dump all my points into intelligence for now. Can't be running around as a daft mage, can I? After another foray into the caves, I unlock another ability point. As expected and highly anticipated, I now have the option to speed up my meteor spell. Thank you, developers. Thank you very much. Now, I have to give credit where it's due. The quest log in Wynncraft is a brilliant feature. It shows all available quests, and all you need to do is click on one of them to be given a waypoint. No faffing about trying to remember what you were meant to be doing. I opt for the cook's assistant quest next, which, in the grand tradition of MMOs, should be a simple, straightforward affair. Oh god, don't make eye contact with them. Help me! On our way, we also get some sage advice from what I can only assume is the server's resident glue sniffer. As I'm running to my destination, I'm once again reminded of how alive this world feels. As soon as you leave the city's safety, you're immediately swarmed by aggroing mobs and other adventurers battling for survival. It's got that old school MMO charm that I genuinely miss. You know, the one where you're never quite sure if you're about to get jumped by a mob, and you love every second of it. As we arrive at the destination, we buy some milk from the vendor, scythe down some wheat, and then, of course, massacre some poor defenseless chickens. The drop rate on these eggs is absolutely atrocious, but I spent far longer on this than I'd have liked, cursing Minecraft's RNG gods under my breath. In the midst of the chicken slaughter, we encounter what can only be described as Skeleton Magic Mike. Every time I hit him, he takes off a little more of his clothes. Absolute filth. Dirty little pervert. We hand in the quest, only to be greeted by a dagger-wielding lunatic who nearly takes my eyes out. Nice one. What on earth are you supposed to be? Next, we pick up a rather intriguing quest. Apparently, Savalas's stepfather has recently passed away and was buried out back. But in true MMO fashion, the corruption's gotten to him, so it looks like we're off to poison his remains. Lovely bit of family drama there. After a brief and not particularly challenging fight, after poisoning the water of course, we kill off Savalas's stepfather for good. I was expecting a bit of sorrow from Savalas, maybe some introspection, but nope. Seems completely fine about the whole situation. We press on to our next adventure, which takes us to a spider-infested cave. Now, this is where things get a little dicey. The entrance wasn't exactly intuitive. It involved climbing up some trees and dropping down into the cave itself. And if you're not a fan of spiders, I can assure you, this is not the quest for you. A short massacre of 8-legged nightmares later, we exit the cave and meet our good friend Ope pulls a fast one on us, and rather than offering anything of real value, decides to pay us with knowledge. Well, aren't you cheeky? By this point, I think I've got a pretty good grasp of the core gameplay loop of Wynncraft, at least in the pre-endgame stages. I have to say I'm genuinely impressed by the sheer amount of systems at play here. It's clear the developers have poured their heart and soul into this project. Considering that I'm not really a Minecraft player, most of the gameplay has felt pretty intuitive overall. Sure, there are a few hiccups with quests and the odd bug here and there, but overall, it's an impressive feat. The world feels alive and reasonably dangerous. I wouldn't want to AFK outside the city walls, that's for sure. I'd love to revisit Wynncraft at a later stage, really sink some hours into it and see what the endgame content and raids are like. Who knows, maybe I'll convince my kids to power level up to play with me. Thanks for watching, till next time.